Hey Cadets, my name is Ray Hendrickson. I'm one of the new brass staff members for the 2019 season. I'm real excited to get started here. Today I'm going to be going over some of the excerpts, starting with this lyrical one that you just heard from Mahler. I'm going to give you some pointers to look out for, some things to work on, and hopefully add to your tool belt. So the first thing I want to talk about today is sound quality and how we can work on our tone and our intonation and stuff like that, because this is definitely something you should be practicing. This excerpt is in my eyes one of the most difficult because there's so many nuances, so many things for people to listen out for, so we definitely want to be aware of that. The very first thing that I like to do is whenever I'm having a problem with a note or playing at a softer dynamic and stuff like that, I'll always take out my mouthpiece visualizer and I'll make sure that I'm correctly setting my aperture to hit those notes. A tool that I'll use is a website that's written down here. It's called dronetonetool.com. It's kind of just a website that has drones that sound like a cello, but it's really, really nice to listen to, and it helps us get our pitch centered. So let's show you this website. You just click on the key and it'll come on. So what we're going to be doing first is that we're going to sing this through, because if you can't hear it, you're not going to be able to play it. So you definitely want to be listening out to these notes and have a good idea of where these pitches are supposed to lay. So the very beginning, we'll just sing on Da. Now obviously we're going to go through the whole thing on our own practice. I'm going to stop right there just for this purpose. Take our mouthpiece visualizer. If you don't have one of these, you can just free buzz. It's the same concept, but this is a really, really good tool that you can get. It's at hickeys.com. Only a couple bucks. So hopefully you're noticing that I'll glissando through these notes so I can feel the intervals between them. I like to think about climbing upstairs with the lights off. You're like feeling around with your feet to see where the interval of the steps are. Same thing with our brass playing, and as soon as the lights go on, you know what that interval is as soon as we plug into the horn. But we definitely want to have control over our inner aperture here. So as soon as you do that, you're going to plug it into the mouthpiece, and you're going to buzz it on your mouthpiece, then whoop, and you play it. So gives you a good idea of where your pitches are supposed to lie in relationship to the music. Now I picked C obviously because it's in C major, and this whole piece is pretty much an arpeggio on C major if you look at it. So it's definitely a good tool for us to be using for this one. Now, dynamic control is our next thing you're going to be talking about. So our very first note, we're starting at pianissimo. We kind of come out of that. So we definitely, going back to our aperture, we want to make sure that everything is set. More often than not, somebody will try and start a note. It's just air, and then eventually it'll start to come. That's because your lips are not close enough together, and maybe because we don't have controls of our corners. So all of those things are very, very important. Now, in terms of playing articulation at a softer dynamic, that's another thing that is something we have to look out for in this excerpt. We want to make sure that as soon as you start to play and your air is moving, that you're not really budging too much here. Because if you do, then we're going to lose our sound again, and articulating at a softer dynamic is going to be a problem. Another thing is with these staccato notes, we want to make sure that we're playing through the notes and we're not playing to the notes. It's a very different concept here. This is what I have an idea of just playing to the notes. It's like boppy, really, okay? We need to remember this. Staccato does not mean short, it means separated. So blow through the notes so that we have a nice bounce feel to them. Now, another good tool or a good practice tool that you can use for this is just arpeggiate, starting on whatever note. Just go through a bunch of different keys. Up and keep going. But we want to make sure that we have control over every range of the horn, but also our dynamic. Play these as softly as possible and see if you can still make the same sound. Now, with our articulation, we also want to make sure that we're kind of taking a close look at what's written on the page here, because as you can see in measure 2, that we have those staccatos at the very end of the measure, bum, ba bum, bum. But if you look closely at measure 10, it's the same rhythm, but it's written differently. So we can play through those notes, and we don't have to play them with the same staccato. I really don't think that that's a mistake that it's not written that way. I think it gives us an opportunity to kind of make our own nice phrase out of it. So take advantage of this opportunity here. There's other examples in here. Okay, we have the tenutos that we need to make sure that we're playing a little differently from just the notes that are not marked with the staccatos, but that's a great place to start. Last thing I want to talk about today is intervallic control. So you're going to see that there's a couple of really large leaps. Okay, obviously we have the first 2 measures there where we're going from a high C to low C. But we also have in this section here, what is that, 15, 16, measure 16, that this kind of moves around a lot. It has a low A up to a high F, back down C, A, high F. So we need to make sure that we have plenty of air on these bottom notes. If you support the bottom notes, then the upper notes will come out easier. I like to call this a trampoline effect. So on a trampoline, you push down to go up. Same thing with our brass playing. Just like that. And also in the arpeggio, that section we were talking about earlier with the staccatos on it. Bring out those lower notes, and it's going to give us a more even sound. So I hope this was helpful for you. Definitely try and use some of these tools that we were talking about today. Free buzzing, dronetonetool.com, and I hope that this helps you out. Cool.